All right, so hi everyone, and welcome to DataSoc's speaker series. Today we have with us Eoghhan Mulcahy from Deepseek AI, and he's also a PhD student. So we will have a lot to chat about with Eoghhan today. So Owen, just a quick summary of DataSoc. So we are Ireland's first student data science society, and the main aim of the society is kind of bridge the gap between the industry and academia. Like we're giving students opportunities to experience, what real life is like with regards to work and data science. So we organize workshops, hackathons, and the speaker series as well. So this is actually our first live speaker event. We've had a speaker in about 3 weeks ago from EY. He was a senior consultant at EY, and you're our first live speaker. So I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Ahmed, and we have Sam as well, the auditor of DataSoc. And so, Owen, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So first of all, guys, thanks a million for having me on the stream. Just like to congratulate you as well for adapting to the times and giving a lovely offering to all your members as well. It's a really enjoyable experience for me to be involved in. So yeah, a little bit of background on myself. Obviously, Owen's my name. I'm a PhD student in the University of Limerick. I'm in my second year of that. What I'm looking at is deep learning computer vision algorithms based around kind of public safety and keeping persons safe at work and also in public. And as you can probably see behind me there, I've the merch up above. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Deepseek AI. So that's a company that focuses on real-world AI and again, human safety and protection. So what I've kind of been doing for the last year or so, I suppose in 2019, I was one of the top entrepreneurs in Ireland at the IBYE competition. So basically the premise of that is you have your county events where all different entrepreneurs will come and pitch, and you will go from your county onto your region, and then finally to 24 of the top entrepreneurs in the country have a battle off up in Google headquarters. So that was really good fun back in 2019. And then I suppose on the nerdy side then as well, I was in the Engineers Ireland competition for innovative student engineering. So I suppose I try to keep the mix there between the nerding out and also the business side. So that's kind of in a nutshell myself.
That's brilliant. So do you want to talk a bit about the where you got the idea for Deepseek and kind of what Deepseek is doing?
Yeah, so I suppose back in the undergrad, I was in Limerick City, and I witnessed basically someone entering the water in the city and saw the emergency response as it kind of unfolded. And I just thought that surely there could be a way to introduce technology here to respond quicker to personal accidents and these type of emergencies. And then computer vision kind of perked my interest because I could see that you could use these cameras to monitor situations 24/7 and try and keep people safe, kind of like a guardian angel type approach. So yeah, I started then my undergraduate project. So basically in UL, you can do a final year project where you can either propose a project yourself or you can pick one of the ones that are on offer. And I proposed a project whereby you could use drone systems to use the camera on the drones to identify people in the water and then relay a response back to the rescue teams. So that's basically what I did. I created a vision algorithm using a data set from a Norwegian university who basically got a drone out and flown it around the place and captured imagery of people in water at different heights and things like that. And I wrote an algorithm that basically picked out the person and said, look, you got a person here in the water. And it very much kind of grew from there on the company side and also on the PhD side, moving towards kind of where we are today, yeah.
And I think, like, as a person from Limerick myself, I think this is a really meaningful idea. You know, like growing up there in the city, unfortunately, seeing the helicopters above the river is something you see very often, you know, much too often. So I think having something like this solution is really, really powerful, particularly in Limerick. But how have you found applying the technology? Have you looked at applying it elsewhere beyond just Limerick?
Yeah, so I suppose what we've kind of been working on, we did a project in Limerick, what we call StreetSeek. So this was kind of basically around the COVID response, so it was using the cameras as well. So what we did was we installed 2 cameras in the city, so they're thermal cameras, just to keep privacy and things like that. They're not visual, so you can't identify anyone's face or even what they're wearing. It's just purely heat sensing. And from that, we were able to count like the number of people that were on the street, what direction they were heading, how long they spent there, and the social distance between them, to see if that was being adhered to within the city. So that was another area where we applied our technology to kind of great effect. That was static camera systems. So from there as well, we're looking to install them on the bridges in Limerick and further afield to alert kind of behaviours and gait and things like that. So if someone is spending a long time there and looks to be in a bit of difficulty, that we can kind of respond or preemptively respond to certain events. And also we're looking more recently at kind of manufacturing floors and things like that, and exclusion zones. So if someone enters an area where they shouldn't be, where they could potentially come into danger, that we can preemptively let them know that they are in immediate danger through an alert system. So really, like, the crux of the company and kind of the work I'm doing is around using cameras to identify these types of accidents that could potentially happen, and intervening or responding in a kind of a faster, more accelerated way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big benefits of a lot of applications of AI, is that it's transferable to other places. I think you're definitely a great example of that, like starting with drones and then moving into a completely different application. So yeah, I think you kind of summarized your findings with that the city the city test in a report there last week, wasn't it? So that was, yeah. So we'll definitely share that around afterwards. So Ahmed, you might have the next question.
Yeah. So just a reminder for everyone watching, you can throw in your questions in the comments and we'll get to them. Eoghhan, do you mind telling us, so you've obviously done a lot with your project and your business. How do you manage your time, running a startup as well as working on your PhD, or is it the same kind of project linked?
Yeah, I suppose, like, the productivity and stuff is difficult. Like, it's never easy to kind of try and run a business and do something as kind of time consuming as a PhD at the same time. But really, it's kind of like a kind of labor of love, so to speak. I mean, like, I really enjoy working on what I'm working on. So having that energy to work on it is massive, because it's never something that I'm like, I don't want to be working on this today, or I'd rather be doing something else. It's always kind of to the front of my mind that this is kind of a passion project. And as well as that, as counterintuitive as it sounds, taking a break is always important for productivity, because if you're constantly hammering on with something, you could be putting time into your work, but really the output and the quality of it isn't there. So just, give yourself a chance to take a break and step back from something as well. Is kind of be my advice on that.
Exactly, I agree. And I would say with COVID and the lockdown, you probably had time to spend on your projects, on your business and your PhD. Like, is there any certain tip you would give, especially students who want to have a startup on the side and also obviously study? Like, would you recommend starting a business during your college years, or is it too much of a hassle, you think?
Yeah, I think it kind of boils down to the individual. I think it's definitely something you can learn a lot from. Like, early in my college days, I would have been involved in like kind of businesses or kind of projects that mightn't have turned into businesses, but I would have thought at the time that they were nailed on to be a business eventually. But I mean, if it's something that you want to, if you see yourself running a business or you see yourself being involved in a startup, I mean, there's no better time to start than straight away. Obviously, look for things like really good teammates. Look for people that you can work with and you can kind of achieve things with. And definitely, again, it comes back to passion. It has to be something that you really want to work on into the future, that it's not something that you're going to give 2 months or 3 months, but it's something that you're willing to give 2 or 3 years of your life to make it really work.
Yeah, I think that's a great kind of way to put it. But yeah. So do you what do you say some of the key skills are that you picked up from running your own business?
Yeah, I suppose I'm kind of, as I mentioned before, it's kind of half and half between like the engineering side and the kind of computer science side, and then kind of the administration and running and stuff. Definitely prioritizing tasks is something I'm getting a bit better at. Especially when you've landed on your plate, you have to figure out, what's the next thing to work on, what's pressing, and what do I need to do right now. So I'm getting like a lot better at that. That's definitely certainly a skill I've gotten better at. Yeah.
So there's a question in here from the comments, which I'll read out to you in a second. But I think just one of the most notable things I think about Deepseek when I spoke to you about it last year was that, you know, as a social innovation project, there's a lot of kind of benefits that come along with that in terms of grants and that type of thing. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the reception of Deepseek and how you found the support? Is it through college or through corporates or that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, like, AI kind of gets a lot of a kind of a bad rap, or machine learning and things like that. You know, like the articles and you might see in the Times and stuff like that, or the New York Post, you'll see like Terminator type scenarios where AI is really bad and like it wants to destroy the world and this, that, and the other. But I suppose we're trying to turn it on its head and say, like, you know, if you're really conscious about it and you're moral about it, that AI can actually be used to really help you, and just can be a tool, because that's what it is. It's just a tool to make kind of a positive change on things. And I think, like, definitely the fact that there's a social aspect, that it's protecting people, people can get involved with that and on board with it. Whereas it's not entirely based around just trying to make money off people. It's like, this is actually a really good tool. It's going to help people in a really positive way. So internally, like an internal motivation, that's massive as well. And then like externally as well, people seem to kind of vibe off that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think just leading on to that question, so I'll just bring up this question we had from the comments. So how would you compare Ireland as a place for startups in terms of grants, market access, and angel investors?
Yeah, I suppose for me it's good, because obviously I came through the IBYE. That's probably a fantastic way to start if you're looking to be early stage startup and you want to access some grants, some advice as well. Advice is massive. It's not always just about money. And that goes towards investors and things like that as well. We were having some initial chats with a couple of different investors, and what's really important for us is that, you know, they can actually guide us in certain ways in advice. So taking money and advice nearly as paramount as each other. But for me, I found it really good so far. Obviously expanding, there's probably bigger markets like America and things like that. But I think for us right now, Ireland is definitely the best place to start.
So we just have another question here from the comments. So do you want to read that one out there, Eoghhan?
Yeah, so James is asking, your idea sounds amazing. How did you develop the data science and programming skills for creating the algorithms used in the drones?
Oh yeah, cheers, James. Thanks very much. Yeah, so I suppose I didn't actually touch on it. I mentioned I was in undergrad, but I did an undergraduate in electronic and computer engineering in UL. So I suppose the programming skills and electronic skills kind of came from there. And I did cooperative placements in analog devices and electricity exchange, where I was a full stack developer. So I've been coding since I was in 4th year in secondary school. And I really just kind of honed those skills over the years, and I kind of got better at them. So my co-founder as well, Eoghhan, is absolutely fantastic. He does a lot of our programming, and he's the CTO of the company. And he won an AI award this year as well. So I mean, both of us can kind of work with each other in terms of developing it out, and obviously building out the team as well, of having a vision. I think that's really important if you're going to start kind of a technology startup, or whatever your startup's going to be. You have to understand the underlying material of your startup. I mean, like, if I wanted to go and start like a kind of a food science startup in the morning, I thought, you know, that's really cool. Like, I know nothing about food science, so I'm probably not the best person to have a food science startup. So like, if you have an idea, make sure it's your passion and make sure you know a lot about it as well. But yeah, I think that answers the question there for you, James.
Thanks for your answer, Owen. Something that I noticed was that you went straight from your bachelor into your PhD, if I'm not mistaken. So like,
Correct, yeah.
what made you make that decision? Because I would say most students wouldn't go straight into a PhD. It's not an easy thing to make.
Absolutely. And to be honest, when I kind of mentioned to people that this is what I was planning on doing, I got a lot of kind of reactions like, why would you do that? You know, like, you can go and work. Or I had like various job offers coming out of college where I could have probably earned a good bit more money than I'm getting on the PhD and things like that. But really, a lot of things came together. So it was kind of an extension of the final year project, and that was probably one of the funnest, most like enjoyable projects that I ever worked on, because it was something like that was my idea, that I was kind of driving the design of, and I was kind of in charge of it. So it kind of just moved really naturally on. And then one of the big things for like doing a PhD, everyone kind of says if you look for advice on the topic, is you have to really get on with your supervisors. And I really did. Like, we had a fantastic relationship through the undergrad. They were the supervisors of my final year project. And they kind of said to me, look, there's an opportunity to take this on further, and is this something you'd like to do? And when I kind of sat down and thought about it, it was really the only option to keep pushing with it and keep developing it. And I suppose I had a lot of work experience skills as well, because even in my first year of college, I went onto LinkedIn and I scrolled through like all the different local businesses that were doing tech. And I found like a fantastic local business called Electricity Exchange, where I just kind of cold texted the CEO and said, you know, I'm a bit raw here on the programming, but I've a lot of passion. I really want to get involved. And he said, yeah, pop down for a meeting. So I went down, I met him. I met Paddy Finn from Electricity Exchange, and I went in and worked with him for a year and a half, 2 years. During college, you know, during first year, I was running down in the car straight after my lecture, getting to work and working late in the evening, things like that. And then I did a lot of work in analog devices as well. So I did my co-op, and then I worked through college with them. Then I went back again for the summer. So I think like I had a lot of real world work experience, and I thought like, you know, this academic approach might be good for the next couple of years, because I have that under my belt already. I kind of know what it's about. So I wasn't really going to be missing out on anything in the grad program. So.
You briefly touched there on how well you work with your other co-founder. How do you think is the best way to go about looking for a person to set up a company with? What do you look for in a good co-founder?
Yeah, I suppose like I mentioned there, like obviously looking for a partner. The way me and Eoghans kind of started interacting was actually through college projects, funnily enough. So like the minute a college project popped up, I'd be texting Eoghans saying like, look, we'll jump on that straight away. And another lad who was in college with us, Owen Breen. So like, you know, the three of us were always on every project we did, and we just found it really worked really well together. I suppose I'm harping back to it, but again, it's just someone who's like passionate, willing to put in the work, obviously highly skilled, and just understands what they're doing. Like, it's the kind of the simple things, like there's no real complexity to it, and obviously a good working relationship as well, and someone you can have the crack with or things like that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we've got another question here from Con McPhillips. I'll just bring it up on screen. So Con said, really interesting startup. Are you looking to expand across Europe or globally?
Absolutely. Yeah, so like there's definitely kind of a global ambition to this, and one of the products we're working on at the moment is to do with kind of static cameras and stuff. So we want to basically be a hardware zero company so that we can scale massively. So integrate into existing static camera infrastructure and be able to provide a software layer of insights and kind of person detection and personal safety type solutions, as I alluded to there with the kind of manufacturing floors and construction type industry. So I think that's definitely on our radar and something that we're designing from the bottom up to be global. Yeah.
That's great. Sorry.
There's another question there. We put it
there.
So it says on Deepseek's website that it's mentioned that you guys have an interest in the application of AI in healthcare. So Paul is asking you to expand on the company's vision on how AI could be beneficial in this sector.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of like a mood board of where we can see ourselves going, but it's definitely probably not it isn't our main concern at the moment. But I do know a lot of kind of PhD students in UL who are working on it, and I think AI for healthcare will be massive. I know a lot of them are looking at the scans you might get from a radiographer and being able to pick out various different discrepancies within that image. So I think it'll definitely be really useful. But what I'm kind of seeing in my own work and in other students' work is that it'll be an AI and human hybrid system, because at the end of the day, we can't put full trust into these algorithms. They're black boxes, especially the neural networks and things like that. Once you've them coded and once they've seen their training data, it's very hard to know when they're going to fail or what they actually know. And that's actually part of my research as well, looking to figure out what these algorithms know. But I think absolutely healthcare would be a huge industry in terms of speeding things up, and then maybe having a professional review these findings, because at the end of the day, humans are still the top dog in terms of intelligence, for the moment anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as well the new European Union laws don't allow full AI by itself. It has to be
Absolutely. It would be
yeah.
it'd be crazy to just let
Yeah,
an algorithm decide everything for us, really.
exactly.
So, yeah,
Especially as
yeah,
you said, if it's a black box and it can't really explain what's going on. So,
absolutely. Agree.
so Owen, this is probably more related to your bachelor degrees. So, like, what did you learn in college? Like, do you think what you learned was enough? And what was the thing that you learned in college that was most helpful? What do you wish you did more of as well? Like, is it like
Yeah,
outside itself, we don't really learn that much in college. It's more the stuff we do outside of our curriculum. Obviously, we just learn the basics. So I was you had a similar experience as well.
yeah. I suppose if I was turned that on its head, I'd kind of say that nothing you learn will be useless to you eventually. It's kind of what I'm finding, because sometimes what you're learning right now might be applicable to something you're working on outside of college, but eventually you'll come back and you'll say, you know, when I was looking at matrices in engineering maths 2, that's really applicable to my convolutional neural nets here. It's the same thing. It's matrix multiplication, things like that. So yeah, like nothing you learn will be useless to you. But I would definitely say, and I would have done it myself, outside of college and outside of your curriculum, always be looking to broaden your horizon, whether it's a new technology that's not in the curriculum yet, whether it's an interesting paper you saw, or someone you're following on Twitter that's looking into something new. The college's curriculum will probably be like, it's the bachelor's is just like your nuts and bolts stuff, but always be looking to expand your horizon and look into stuff that's not on your curriculum. Definitely, I'd encourage that. Yeah.
So in terms of the future of AI, do you think that obviously algorithms are developing and improving all the time? Do you think that there needs to be kind of better sharing of progress in terms of research between kind of academia and industry and different regions around the world? What would your comments be on that?
Yeah, definitely. You can kind of see the trends towards the person with the most compute kind of has the best algorithm. Like if you look at GPT-3, I mean, that's topical right now. And they have it behind a paywall, so you basically have to do API requests to use that. So that's kind of like a worrying trend, because the kind of collaboration isn't going to be there, and the person that has the most money, effectively, because the money is going to be compute, it's going to drive kind of a wedge in the community. So I think, like, we obviously as well, like, algorithms can have bias in them, whether it's like a detection algorithm for that is trained on, you know, different races, or might have a discrepancy in the data set. I think we have to be really careful with how we deploy it, and look around the ethics of doing that, and just try to put our best foot forward, and try not to create applications that are going to be unethical. So that's definitely like on the top of my mind when I'm developing stuff, is try and keep it as ethical as possible, and look for these things. So definitely, yeah.
Sounds good. Owen, you mentioned you won Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur. So I assume that was with Deepseek. Can you tell us
Yeah,
more?
I didn't go all the way. No, I only got to
Yeah.
the national finals, but I won two things along the way. I won the Limerick and then the Munster region. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, that was the question. Sorry there.
Yeah. So, like, can you tell us about the experience? How did you get involved? Was it like how good the experience was, basically?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Kind of coming out of my shell a small bit, and just getting out there and speaking. So it really brought me on a lot, opened up a massive network. Like, I mean, network is huge, whether it's in your studies or whether it's in terms of your professional life. I try to build a network now. If you're an undergrad, reach out to people, LinkedIn, email, whatever the case may be, and just build out the network, because you learn from them and you can lean on them for advice, and things like that. And people are really receptive to answering. Like, I mean, if someone texts me, I'm going to answer them, and if I text someone, I'll probably get something back most of the time. So just don't be afraid. Reach out and build out your network. I think that'll be really good use of your time as well. Yeah.
So we have another question from the comments here from Evan. So Evan said he loves the work DataSoc's doing. Thanks a lot, Evan. Owen, how steep was the learning curve to developing your startup?
I'm probably still on it. Yeah, exponential. Yeah, it's a bit of a ramp up, but I mean, like, as long as you're making a few good decisions a day, or learning a few new things a day, you're going to climb it. So it's just about starting and just trying to figure out, like, what's the 3 best things I can do in one day. If you're 3 things done, that's your kind of work done for the day. Yeah, it was steep. It's still steep, but definitely enjoyable as well. So, you know.
Brilliant. I just have another question. So in terms of maybe growing your team in the future, do you see yourself going into recruiting soon or at some point in the future? And what would you look for in maybe a young graduate or student when you're hiring?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had 2 hires over the summer. They were absolutely fantastic. And we're looking to grow the team very shortly. And in the coming months, we'll be building out the team. So in terms of things we look for is, in a startup anyway, it's someone that'll roll up their sleeves and work away on anything. So, you know, if you're coming in with a knowledge of maybe front end design or something, that you're not afraid to go into the back end and start working on a database table if that's required, because startups don't have the luxury of being able to say, we have one database guy, one front end guy, one back end engineering. Everyone kind of has to just do what's required. So yeah, I'd look for kind of someone who has not even a depth of knowledge. The only thing I'd look for is someone who's willing to roll up their sleeves and get to it with a task. That's kind of the main thing.
Sounds great. I think, Sam, we've covered all the questions there. Is there anything else?
Okay, we'll just encourage anyone else who's in the chat or
Yeah.
watching, if you have any other further questions, just pop them into the chat and we'll run them by on. I think if there isn't any in the next few minutes, we might just wrap up. But I guess I'll just say again, Eoghn, thanks a lot for coming on. Really appreciate it. I think the stuff you're doing with Deepseek is really, really cool, really inspirational for any students who are interested in AI. You know, I think it's a real cool story for people who might want to start their own business or get into data science.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say thanks very much as well for everything, guys. Really enjoyed coming on and having the chat. And I assume my details is probably on the DataSoc page anyway, I think. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, has an extra question or that, I'm more than happy to answer. Just thanks to Ahmed and Sam again for having me. Really enjoyable experience, and just lucky DataSoc members, I think, anyway, to put on a show like this. So thanks very much, guys.
We got a question there.
Oh, brilliant.
We got a couple, actually. All right. Sam, do you want to go for it?
Sure. So Aoife asks, Eoghn, what's a big growing tech sector in Ireland that you recommend getting into?
Yeah, I think the tech sector is growing massively in Ireland across the board. Like, you obviously have all your buzzwordy stuff. So you have like AI and you have blockchain and cloud and this, that, and the other. But I think if you're from a startup point of view, look for a problem and try and apply your technology to fix it, rather than look for the technology and then try to find the problem after. And I suppose if you're looking to go into kind of a job type role, then in certain sectors, I'd just look at what I enjoy. Do a little hobbyist project. If it's cloud, put together a server with a back end or something like that in a database. If you're looking to get into UI, put up a website, show it to your friends. Just put something out there. Like the real artist ship thing, that slogan is so true. And it's something I kind of didn't do when I was a little bit younger. Was I used to build things and put them in a box and put them away. But you got to just throw stuff out there. And even if it breaks, like I built an app for UL where you could enter your student ID and it would send you back your whole calendar into your Google Calendar. And I remember, like, the way I built it didn't scale well at all. It was on like just one server, small server that could like run out of memory and stuff. It was on AWS. And then I was like babysitting it every night, trying to like clear the cache, and like people were coming on and texting me saying, you know, this didn't work and this, that, and the other. But like I still learned a lot from shipping it. So, you know, just put stuff out there in the sector that you want to get into, or the sector you think is interesting. So, yeah.
Right, and we have one more question from Rajit. It's, what kind of deep learning tools would you be currently working with?
Yeah, so we use PyTorch for our vision algorithms. We use SORT, which is simple online real-time tracking, which is kind of an after-the-fact algorithm that runs on top of the detection boxes from YOLO. So that's kind of the deep learning stuff. We use a bit of TensorFlow as well, but we kind of actually prefer using PyTorch in-house. Obviously Python as well, just as the programming language around that. And then we've built up all our other stuff, Node.js for the back end and things like that. So there's some of the tools that we're using. TensorBoard as well, to have a look at our data sets, and then just like Plotly and stuff like that within Python to check the output graphs. But yeah, that's more or less a roundup of tools.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
So I think if we don't get any more questions in the next few minutes, we might just wrap up. So I guess is there any other big milestones upcoming with Deepseek that people can look forward to or keep an eye out on your social media or anything?
Absolutely, yeah. So I suppose what can I say and what can I not say? Yeah, we're in kind of talks with a couple of different people for kind of expanding the team and things like that. So there could be something interesting coming there shortly. There's a couple of different projects coming up as well. So we're looking at deploying things in manufacturing centers over the next couple of months, and we're also looking at deploying stuff within the city again, and kind of further expanding our offering for kind of public safety in the city. So yeah, there's a few things coming up, and we're really excited about the projects that are on the way.
Brilliant. Okay, we might just take one more question and then wrap up. So this is from Eva. Eva asks, how do you think society will change when GTP3 comes more widely available? So maybe this is outside your domain, but you're welcome to speculate.
Yeah, like I've seen some really cool things built by it. Like I saw like a cron job maker where you could like put in like a sentence and say like, you know, like give me a cron job, and it just spat you back out one. I saw like a front end one where someone typed in like a requirements for a UI, and they said like, give me an input form and give me a button and this, that, and the other. And the next thing, the whole thing got populated. So like, you know, you could speculate and you could say like, you know, will front end design jobs be replaced by a GPT-3 thing where a client can come and say like, give me this, and the next thing your whole website's built and you no longer need a designer. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think it could be good and bad, I suppose. I think a lot of people think that this GPT-3 is general AI. They think it's like an actual general AI, but it's not. We're not quite there yet. So I think there'll definitely be some changes for good or bad. I think we'll just have to see.
And I think, you know, a lot of the time people just see, you know, our successes or your successes on LinkedIn and just think that everything works out. Has there been an occasion in Deepseek where you've tried to apply something or tried to work on a project and it just hasn't worked out?
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a lot of that. Definitely don't use the LinkedIn as the blueprint of the day today. Yeah. So like, I mean, there's plenty of times where like even early in our project here for the Deepseek one, you know, our cameras were going down because we had a few hot days in a row, and the next thing our compute unit got a bit too hot, and we had like a 4G dongle and that stopped working, and you know, you have to kind of firefight those things and go back to the drawing board, and you're kind of pulling your hair out on an engineering side, and then obviously deals fall through, or you might have something that's lined up and it just doesn't happen. It's all part and parcel of it, really. You got to be ready for that. You got to have a thick skin. So yeah, I mean, there's ups and downs. Anything in life, business, academia, life in general, you just have to be able to keep going with them. So yeah, definitely there's ups and downs.
Okay, so we've got another question here, Ahmed, if you want to read it out.
Yeah, so Emma's asking, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self, and what would you do? Would you do anything different?
Yeah, I think actually I half already answered this one. So if I was to put a nutshell, I'd say just like put more stuff out there in what you enjoy doing. Just put it out there and let people see it. Whether you're creating music or whether you're creating code or whether you're a writer, just get it out there and let people see it, and it'll just make you better for it. And just start earlier as well. Definitely. It's a great question, Emma.
Okay, well, I think on that note, then we might just wrap up for this evening. So once again, Eoghhan, massive thank you for coming on. I think really interesting talk, fantastic stuff you're doing with Deepseek. So really glad to have you on.
Thanks very much, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Eoghhan.
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. See you.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.